When my wife first told me she was going on a solo vacation, I laughed it off, thinking it was one of her usual dramatic statements. But she was dead serious. She claimed she needed space to find herself, that the stress of marriage, work, and routine had dulled her spark. I understood the need for breaks, but a whole month without me? That stung. What hurt even more was how she made all the arrangements quietly, without involving me, without even asking if I wanted to join. One morning, she simply wheeled her suitcase out the front door, kissed me quickly on the cheek, as if I were a distant relative, and said she'd call once she landed. I stood there on the porch, half stunned, watching the cab disappear down the street. The first week was strange but oddly peaceful. The house felt bigger, emptier, yet quieter. I busied myself with work, made simple dinners, and caught up on chores. I told myself this was temporary, that she'd come back refreshed, maybe more appreciative. But as the days passed, I began to notice something unsettling. Her calls grew shorter, her texts delayed, her voice distant, as if she were talking to an acquaintance rather than her husband. One night, while on video call, I asked if everything was okay. She rolled her eyes and snapped, "Don't be clingy. I told you this trip was about me. Just don't go anywhere without me, okay? You better not take any trips or do anything fun while I'm gone. I want you waiting when I get back." Her warning struck me like a slap. It wasn't just the words, it was the way she said them, like a command, not a request. I sat in silence, wondering how our marriage had shifted to this imbalance where she lived freely while I stayed shackled. Her month away stretched endlessly, and with every passing day, my suspicions grew heavier. She posted glamorous photos online, beaches, candlelit dinners, fancy rooftop lounges, but always alone, as if carefully curating her story. My friends noticed too. "Why does she look like she's on a honeymoon without you?" one of them asked, half joking. My stomach twisted. I wanted to believe in her, in us, but something inside me was breaking, whispering that this wasn't just about finding herself. By the third week, my patience had worn thin. Her texts had dwindled to one-word replies, her calls grew rare, and every time I tried to bring up how I felt, she brushed me off. "Stop overthinking," she'd say, her voice curt, almost irritated, as though my longing for her presence was a burden. One night, unable to sleep, I opened her Instagram again. She had posted a photo, her hair done up, a red dress hugging her frame, a glass of wine in her hand, and the faint reflection of someone else holding the camera. My heart hammered in my chest. She never mentioned going out with anyone, yet these pictures suggested otherwise. I zoomed in, searching for clues, but she was careful, clever even, leaving no obvious trace. Still, the silence between us was louder than any proof. What gnawed at me most was her warning. "You better not go anywhere." Why did she feel the need to control me while she was away, living her life without me? It was as if she wanted me frozen in time, loyal and waiting, while she explored a world where I didn't exist. One afternoon, as I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the empty chair across from me, I realized something bitter. This wasn't about space. This was about power. She had stepped into freedom and demanded I remain chained to routine. That realization cut deeper than any knife. My suspicions became unbearable. I confided in my closest friend, Tarek, who listened quietly before saying, "Brother, if she loved you, she wouldn't silence you. She wouldn't live a second life while leaving you on hold. A woman who warns you not to move is usually hiding where she's moving herself." His words hit hard because deep down I already knew. I began retracing her posts, cross-checking the places she visited with travel blogs, restaurants, even tagged locations she tried to hide. Piece by piece, the puzzle formed. She wasn't alone. Someone was with her. I had no names, no clear face, but the patterns screamed betrayal. By the time the fourth week arrived, I was no longer the same man who stood helplessly on the porch watching her leave. I was sharper, colder, and burning with questions I needed answered. She thought she'd come back to the same obedient husband, waiting faithfully at home. She had no idea I had already begun preparing for the confrontation that would shatter the lies she wrapped around us. The day she returned, I picked her up from the airport. She looked radiant, glowing with the kind of energy I hadn't seen in years. Her suitcase rolled behind her, and when she saw me, she smiled faintly, but there was no warmth in it. It was the smile of someone greeting an old friend, not a husband. On the drive home, she chattered about the beaches, the food, the nightlife. Not once did she ask about me, about how I'd been, or if I had missed her. I let her talk, nodding quietly, hiding the storm boiling inside me. That evening, as we sat down for dinner, I placed my phone on the table and opened the folder I had created. Screenshots of her social media posts, metadata from her photos, even a few messages I had discovered through a friend who worked in tech. I slid the phone toward her. Her eyes flicked down, then froze. The color drained from her face. The reflection of candlelight trembled in her widened pupils as she scrolled through evidence she thought she had buried. Finally, she whispered, "It wasn't what it looks like." Her voice cracked, not from guilt, but from fear of losing control. I leaned back, my voice steady, almost calm. "It looks like you took a honeymoon without me. It looks like you wanted me caged while you were free. It looks like you warned me not to go anywhere, because you were afraid I'd discover the truth." She tried to argue, to twist her words into excuses, but the air between us was already poisoned with the stench of betrayal. Every explanation sounded hollow, rehearsed. Finally, she dropped the act, sighed heavily and muttered, "Fine. I needed to feel alive again. You wouldn't understand." That was the moment everything crystallized. She hadn't just betrayed me with another man. She had betrayed the very foundation of our marriage, the respect, the trust, the promise that we were partners, not jailer and prisoner. I stood, pushing my chair back slowly, and looked at her one last time. "You wanted freedom," I said softly. "Then you'll have it. But don't expect me to still be here when you come back looking for your cage to be warm." Her eyes widened, a flicker of panic breaking through her mask, but it was too late. I had already made my choice. That night, while she slept in the room we once shared, I packed my essentials into a duffel bag. I wasn't running away, I was reclaiming myself. For a month, she had lived without me. Now it was my turn to live without her, not as punishment, but as liberation. As I closed the door behind me, I felt something I hadn't felt in weeks, peace. She thought her warning had bound me, but in truth, it had set me free.